sent out. Get the bot in here. Get our Discord taken care of. All right. So, hello everyone. This is Chris Ingerson, and it is, I don't know what I was going to say, January. It's February 12th, and this is the February 12th TextQuest Devstream. So, today we are going to be working on something a little less directly tied to TextQuest, although we definitely need it for TextQuest, which is I'm going to be rewriting the JSON parser that I use. The current JSON parser that we're using is something that I wrote a long time ago. It was based off of um, some code called I think it was like JSON Sharp originally, was the kind of like the basis for that. And I'm basically going to rewrite it in a way that is much more user friendly to use. You know, we're not going to have quite as awkward of a um, how to phrase it. Quite as awkward as a. Basically, I'm just trying to make it so that it can be much more convenient to access and edit data inside of the JSON values that I have. Because currently, with the existing JSON parser, doing any sort of JSON manipulation involves really awkward digging into that JSON, getting a value out, making the adjustments to that value, and then resetting the JSON on the original object, just because of how data structures work in C Sharp, because it's object-oriented programming, which means that when I was getting those JSON values, I was actually getting a copy of those values technically. So what I'm going to try to do is basically write a new version of the parser that is more extensible, I guess, or more easily editable, while also being something that is a little more. Before I forget, I should walk on screen and do that. And also, I hit space, which made me walk off screen, and that doesn't matter because I can walk right back on screen. Um, so one of the main things that I want to work on is improving the performance for the JSON parser. Because for large blobs of JSON, if you've seen any of the custom adventure stuff that we've streamed before, you'll notice that there's this like 2-second lag spike at the beginning of each custom adventure, or well, when you load a custom adventure, and that's just because it's parsing through so much JSON that it's taking an eternity for it to really properly parse it all. So what I would like to do, I basically have two goals. One is improve the base efficiency of my JSON parser, and two, going to try to do some threading, which probably means I'm going to fail miserably on that latter part. I would not hold my breath on getting the threading to work today, but as far as the actual parsing goes, I'm pretty sure we can get that going in a reasonable way. So currently, I've already created the base data classes. So we already have JSON arrays, JSON objects, we have JSON values, JSON value collections, bools, nulls, numbers, and strings. That covers all of the basic JSON types, and it covers all of the basic JSON data structures. So all we really should have to do right now is the parser. In fact, right now, if I wanted to, I'm pretty sure I could build JSON at runtime and have it be formatted correctly, although I might not have my. I'm reasonably sure that this would give me accurate formatting for when we called to string. But I don't have a way of parsing a string and turning that into a recognizable JSON structure. To get things rolling, I am going to go ahead and just make our JSON parser. Oh, okay. I'm going to, I guess, close this and then reopen it so that goes away. Unless this is from that. So this is the old JSON parser, by the way, which is 400 some lines long. Yeah, 458. And it does work, like I said, but it's a bit of a slow process. Although, admittedly, the process that we're going to rewrite is probably going to be something similar, in the sense that we're basically going to iterate. What this does is it iterates through character by character, looking for special reserved characters like open and close braces, and then it's going to try and basically what's the correct term? it's basically going to try to build the JSON strings one character at a time, and then it will parse those strings once they're finished. Now this works. It's not 100% great, but we're probably going to be doing something similar, just because I honestly don't know of any other way of doing this. So we're going to do something similar, but not quite the same. We're probably going to try to optimize it just a smidge. And I feel like it's easier to start from scratch for something like this because it's 400 some lines, and that's kind of a lot, but it's also not a lot, and it's just enough that it'd probably be easier for me to have sort of a blue sky approach to this, honestly. So there's actually one more thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, not that I wanted to talk about, but I did want to change this. So I do have some minor adjustments to make real quick. So the way I'm structuring this is somewhat similar to what I was doing before, where I have JSON values. Everything is a JSON value. So JSON objects are JSON value collections, which themselves are actually JSON values. JSON arrays are the same thing. They're JSON value collections as well. The difference in approach here is that instead of just treating them as only JSON value collections, I'm also trying to make JSON arrays derive from iList and JSON objects derive from iDictionary. So I should be able to access them standardly like dictionaries and lists, which means that instead of saying like what I used to do, where it was JSON object dot get object, and then I'd pass it in a key. All I would have to do here is I would just say JSON object square brackets, and then I'd say the string ID that I want to retrieve. Now that would only retrieve me a generic JSON value that is true. However, I would be able to cast that fairly easily between all of the different types. So that should be fairly straightforward. Although, actually, now that I think about it, I probably need to make all of my stuff, or all of my JSON values derive from Iequatable, now that I think about it, which would be pretty fun, because that's not something I've done before. So let's go ahead and go to definition here. And out of pure curiosity, I'm going to say using system, and I'm going to say derives from I think it's Iequatable. Yeah, which itself is probably not actually needed on the JSON value front. What about, there's Iequatable and it's not castable, I don't think. Comparable, maybe? Yeah. So I'll probably need to do some quick lookups to see what I want to use there, but that is something that we're probably going to want to do. Basically, I'm just trying to make it more complex on the back end system so that it's much easier on the front end and it's more optimized on the front end. So we'll see what I can end up pulling out there. All right, so before I forget, I do want to come up here to my JSON value collection, and I am going to take a concept from the previous public abstract. I think it's char is what I'm going to want. So we'll say beginning char character get, okay, and then we'll say public abstract char ending character get. So then we'll go over here to JSON array, which will mean that I need to come over to here, and we're going to say, hold on, I'm going to say public override beginning character, public override ending character, and then instead of this, we're going to say, I have the hiccups, get return, and it's just going to be a base thing. Do that. So the beginning character for an array is square bracket. Pretty much just going to do the exact same thing here. And it's going to be end bracket. Then we will go ahead and I'm just going to copy this. We're going to go over to JSON object. Same thing, where I will go ahead and say under count. I'm going to do this. So this is going to be brace instead of bracket. Okay. We are going to have one more thing that I need to do, which is output is equal to new string builder. And then we're going to go ahead and say beginning character. And then we're just going to say at the end here, we're going to say output.append ending character. Okay, pretty straightforward. Same thing for the array. Come down to here, we're just going to say beginning character, output.append ending character. Okay. So that should get my JSON objects and JSON arrays to have their open and closed braces, as you would expect. And now I'm just kind of... Actually, you know what? No. Before I go too crazy and start working on the parser, I am going to make sure that my base data classes can function as I would expect. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my... Let's see, I think I have... somewhere around here. Maybe I didn't put it on there yet. We're going to grab a JSON test, which is just a basic component that I wrote to basically test all of this. We're going to grab our input field, which is here. And then we're going to have our output label, which is here. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and open this up real quick. I will do a quick bool. So I'm going to say public bool data test is equal to true. We'll say it's equal to false, I guess. It's equal to false. And then instead of update, we're going to say private void start. And we'll say if data test. We're just going to say JSON object. Actually, you know what? No. Let's go ahead and do this. Do a public enum data test type derives from byte. We're just going to say none is equal to 0. Bool is equal to 1. Null is equal to 2. String is equal to 3. Number, we'll say int, I guess. Int is equal to 4. Float is equal to 5. And then array is equal to 10, followed by object is equal to 20. Okay, so we're going to do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and say public JSON, what did I call it? Data test type. Data test type, test, data test is equal to data test type dot none. Okay, and we're just going to say if data test does not equal dot none. Okay, so then we'll do a switch statement just so we can kind of run through this real quick. We're going to say case, or well, switch data test, data test, case dot, we'll say dot bool break. So all we're going to do here is we're just going to say, well, at the end of the day, we're going to need this. So we're going to say JSON object, JSON is equal to new JSON object. That's all we're going to do. And then we're going to go ahead and say public bool pretty print is equal to false. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say output label dot text is equal to JSON dot to formatted string pretty print. Pretty straightforward there. Then we're going to go ahead and say for our bool, we're just going to say JSON dot add. We'll say bool true followed by true, which itself is actually going to require a JSON bool. So we'll go ahead and say new JSON bool true this, and this is going to be false, false, and that should basically give me a quick test to see what it looks like. So I'm going to just real quick test what bools look like. If they look correct, then we can kind of move on to the next thing, and we'll just kind of real quick make sure that our data structures look correct. And once we're happy with that, then we can move on to the actual string parsing. Mostly because I want to make sure that my data structures can be handled properly before I try to start parsing massive strings to those data structures, because if I have broken data structures, then I won't know if it's the parsing that's broken or if it's the structures. So we're going to go ahead and just set this to be bool. I'm not going to worry about it for now. Actually, you know what? Probably something I will do is I'm going to, instead of having this be in start, I'm going to have its own little function here. That's just like private void data test. And we'll just go ahead and copy this, put this here. I'm going to move this down to here. And then we're just going to call data test. Okay, so that should make things a little bit easier. And I'm also actually going to move it out of start and into. Well, we can keep it in start, but I'm also going to go ahead and put this down here. So we're going to say else if input.get key down, key code dot num. Okay, 0. I think we have. I think it's like pad 0. Is that right? Okay, you're not really helpful. Time out. Because I thought that there was numpad and then some alpha 0. So alpha 0 through 9 are the number keys at the top of your keyboard. But I could have sworn that we have a number pad one. Keypad. There we go. That's what it's called. So we'll say keypad 9. And then we'll just call data test. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. Let that compile. Oh, and by the way, we're working in a separate project for the JSON parser for now, mostly because, one, that keeps compile times way lower than if we did them in the TextQuest project proper. But two, it also means that I just don't have to worry about anything else cluttering up the project. It's just this parser, and I guess a little bit of TextMesh Pro stuff, but for the most part, it's just this parser. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do pretty print because I want to see, make sure it looks nice when it's formatted. Let's go ahead and hit save, and we should see the results. I'm pretty sure it's going to look. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Where is my starting thing? So let's go to JSON object. Oh, interesting. It's doing its capacity. Okay. Okay. All right. I guess I can make this a string instead of a char. That would probably be fine. It's probably not the end of the world. It might make concatenation a little bit easier. Let's go ahead and go back over to here. I'm just going to do that and that. And then we're going to go over to JSON value collection. Make it that. And I'm pretty sure that these are just not plain nice because single digits are, or single quotes are for chars. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so let's try that. Although, admittedly, I don't think it will. So it'll be valid JSON, but it won't necessarily be, printed the way I want it to. So we're going to have to get our printing in order. So yeah, this is almost printed correctly. Like you can see that it's like doing new lines for the different values, but our braces are obviously all kinds of worked. So we're gonna actually go ahead and go to our JSON object down here at the very bottom. What we're gonna do is we're gonna say I guess I could do that. So I'm going to do if pretty and count. Oops, hold on. Count is greater than 0. Then we're going to go ahead and say output dot append. I'm just going to do this. Can I do you instead? Yep. So we're going to append that char. And that's pretty much all I need to do, I think. Well, is it though? Probably actually what I want to do here is this. So we'll go ahead and let that compile. And I think what that's going to give me, it's going to give me correct JSON values and not indentation, but new lines, but it's not going to give me indentation yet. So I haven't worked that in there. Hello, Anthony. Welcome back. How you doing tonight? Also, just to give you a bit of a heads up, we're focusing a lot on JSON parsing today, so it's going to be like a huge code day. Not a lot of visuals aside from text, just as a heads up. All right, so let's go ahead and play again. We should see it pop up. Yep, so there's our new lines. That's correct. We have correct comma placement. Looking good. But now we need to focus on indentation. Indentation is probably going to be handled in this JSON utility. So we're going to go ahead and say, well, it's going to get a little messy, I feel. So I could either stick. Yeah, okay. So I'm probably going to just return a string here, where we're going to say public static string get indent. Get indent spacing. It's not great. And all this is just going to be is oof. So we're going to say I'm going to need a string builder up here. So I'm going to say using system.text. We're going to say string builder output is equal to new string builder. We'll say indent level. Okay, that gives me the capacity, which is pretty much what I want. I'm also going to say at the top here, if indent level is equal to 0, we're going to say return just an empty string. Else we're going to return output dot toString here. And we're just going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than indent level I plus plus. And then we're just going to say output dot append that. So pretty straightforward there. I'm going to come over here to JSON object, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say in front of my for each loop, I'm just going to say JSON utility dot indent level plus plus JSON utility dot indent level minus minus. Pretty straightforward there. Okay, so before I do my initial append, I'm probably going to want to just say output dot append, and then actually I'm going to do this as efficiently as I can. So I'm going to just go ahead and say string spacing, or no, indent spacing, I guess. Indent spacing is equal to editor utility. I'm so used to saying that. JSON utility dot get indent spacing. Okay. And then I am, I bet I could actually come up with a more efficient way of doing that, and I think I know what I'm going to do there, but we'll see that in a second. All I'm going to do here is just say output.append, indent spacing. That's all I need to do there. We'll let that go. So that should give me proper indentation as well as new line returns, and I need to actually validate that because there's no point for me to do that appending if I'm not printing pretty. So let's go ahead and hit play here. So everything should look correct this time, I believe. Yep, we have our indentation amount. Let's go ahead and stop playing. I'm going to come back here to JSON utility. I'm going to make this 2 spaces just because I can. I'm going to come back down to here, and for this, I'm just going to say if pretty, okay, because I don't want to append that spacing if we're not pretty printing, because that's just wasted space. Okay, so we should be good here. Let's go ahead and put this up here. We can shorten that. We can shorten you as well. Okay, so next I can go ahead and let that compile. Let's take a look at our canvas. I'm going to turn off pretty print to see what it looks like. It should just be basically like a flat string. And then we can move on to the next test. Although granted, we'll have to do something pretty complex. So yep, that's looking correct. No spacing, which is pretty much what we want. And then if we set that up, like you can see the differences between that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Between that. All right, next, let's go ahead and come back here. We're going to hop over to JSON Test. I'm going to go up here. We're going to say case datatype.null. We'll break out. And we'll say JSON.add null followed by that is an interesting situation here, because actually what I should probably do here is say go to definition. I probably should say value is equal to null, question mark. We'll say new JSON null. Otherwise, we'll put in the value. Okay. And then from our test, I'm just going to kind of do that. And then I'll also go ahead and say JSON.add JSON null. And then I'll say new JSON null. Pretty straightforward. Let's get a couple of other tests in here while we're at it. Case string, I believe, is the next one. We're going to go ahead and say break off of that. So we'll say JSON.add string. Oops, not that. Then we'll go ahead and just say new JSON string. And then I'm going to go ahead and say Chris. And we'll go ahead and say JSON.add number string followed by new JSON string. Blah, blah. Whatever. Yeah, that's good enough. And that's probably all we really need for that. So next we'll say case datatype dot int. You know what? I'm just going to actually make this be a number. I'm just going to say number. No reason for me to worry about that. Okay, I'm going to make that 4. So we're just going to say number. Let's hit break here. We're just going to say JSON.add int new number. We'll say 15. JSON.add float new JSON number. And you can already kind of see one of the shortcomings of the current workflow, which is we can only add new JSON numbers, new JSON strings, new JSON nulls, bools, and whatnot. But it would be nice to have some convenience methods to just pass in like booleans or just a string, and it would automatically create that on the JSON side of things. Just so that we don't have to constantly say new JSON string, we can just have the backend code handle that for us. So we're going to do that a little bit later, probably. That's our numbers. Let's go ahead and say case. I believe the only things we have left are our array. Break. So we're going to say JSON array. Array is equal to new JSON array. At the end, we're going to say JSON.add array. And then we'll say array.add. And then we can give it all kinds of things. So let's just give it one of each. New JSON bool. True. Array.add. New JSON null. Array.add. New JSON string. String test. Array.add. New JSON number. Let's just do that. Okay. And I probably should add an array and an object just to be sure. So probably this should be something like this actually, JSON array subarray is equal to new JSON array. I guess that I could almost do, well, no, that's fine. Okay, and then we'll say JSON object sub object is equal to new JSON object. Okay, and all we're going to do here is we're just going to say subarray.add, and we're going to want to do basically the same thing for this, where we can just arbitrarily give it numbers and strings and all that. But for now, we're just going to give it like new JSON number. We'll just give it 3 numbers from 0 to 2. I'll say array.add subarray array.add subobject. I'm going to leave the subobject empty just to see what happens there. So I think that's a pretty good set of testing conditions. Let's go ahead and let that go. Now, if I was really going to be slick about this, I would probably be writing unit tests instead of individual like at runtime tests that I have to do myself. And in fact, I will probably be writing unit tests a little bit later, but it is something that I've found is less useful to do as you're writing your code still. I know there are people who swear up and down that you should write test code while you're still writing your code, but that seems like it's just confining you to what your tests are doing, and that's not a good thing, I think. Okay, so 9, JSON null. I'm also going to turn on pretty print and toggle between these. So that looks good. Let's go to string. Okay. Looking good. Let's go to an array. This one is going to be the nice one. Oh, right, because I also don't have my arrays set up properly yet. So let's turn off pretty print. So that does seem right. String test. We get a number 0, 1, 2. That looks all right. And yeah, so cool. So we actually have, as of right now, I think all of our stuff functions if we don't have any sort of pretty printing. But obviously, once we get the array stuff working with pretty printing, it should be, I think actually that part will be done too. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. So we're going to hop over here to JSON array. I'm going to get down to the bottom here. We're pretty much going to do the same thing where we're just going to say, actually, you know what? I'm also going to rewrite the JSON utility stuff. So instead of having this just be a field, basically, I'm going to make it a getter. So it's going to say get, and then we're also going to go ahead and say set, and yeah, I know. So let's go ahead and say da, da, da. I know you're going to be mad, so we're just going to go ahead and say private static int indent level is equal to 0. We'll say return indent level, and then we'll say if indent level does not equal value, indent level is equal to value, and I'm also going to go ahead and come up here and say private static string get indent spacing, and oh, sorry, not that. I'm just going to say indent spacing, not spading. Spacing is equal to that, and that also means that I want to do this: private const string indent space is equal to this. Let's go ahead and comment these, I suppose. The amount of spacing to use per individual space. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Current indent level for spacing purposes. Oh, and these are actually private, so I probably should move this to here. Okay, and then all I'm going to do here is just simply say, pretty much it's just going to be this. So we're not going to say return here, we're just going to say indent spacing is equal to that. Okay. And then I'm going to come down here and say else. And we'll say indent spacing is equal to output.toString. Okay, and all this is going to do now is just say return indent spacing. So now indent spacing should automatically be handled, basically. And that means that actually, when I do my outputs here, I'm going to want to say, so instead of calling indent spacing here, we're just going to call this function. So we're going to do that. And then I'm also going to say if pretty, we're going to do that, and I'm just going to apply that to the end of this as well. Okay, so that way I'm not constantly regenerating strings or anything of the sort. That should help me. So now it should just return the actual string value without having to modify it. And that means that we can now go up to here. We're pretty much going to do the same thing. We're going to go up to here. We're going to say if pretty and count is greater than 0, we'll append. And if pretty, we're going to say indent level. Let's go ahead and copy this. If pretty, we're going to say minus minus. And then I'm going to go ahead and say for each one of these, we're going to say if pretty output.append JSON utility.get indent spacing. Okay, and I'm reasonably sure. Oh, right, hold on. I'm going to do this as well. So we're going to go ahead and do this, do that. Okay. So I think we're good there. I think that will get us to have properly formatted arrays. So let's go ahead and test it out. Make that an array. Make it pretty print to start. Let's go ahead and hit save. All right. Oh, so close. I suppose. Shoot. Suppose what that means is when I come down to here, I should do this instead and say output.append JSON utility.get indent spacing, which probably means I need to put that into my object as well. And we have to do that before the spacing, obviously, because otherwise it will... Well, no, it should go after the spacing, shouldn't it? Or the indentation stuff, so let's go ahead and move that. Okay, let's test that out. I'm reasonably confident that it will work a little bit better this time. Because the spacing format stuff is always what gets you. Ooh, I don't know where that's coming from. Oh, that's the spacing again. Oh, I need to do a count thing. That's why. Okay. So it does look correct. You'll notice that our arrays are now properly matched up. We do have this extra space here, which I'm sure would happen if we had an empty array as well, because we're doing indenting there. So I need to say here, in addition to basically having this in the if pretty wrapper, I also need to say if count is greater than 0. Otherwise, that's going to get, it's going to apply that extra space when we don't need it. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing in JSON object. Paste that in there. Move this down. Move that down. All right, so let's give that another try. And the reason that I don't like having the extra white space in my JSON values is because if it's an empty array or an empty object, there's no sense in having space between the braces or brackets. You might as well just let them be like open brace, close brace right away. There's no need for that extra space because it doesn't really make it more readable necessarily, and it certainly adds to the file size. So, okay, so that looks good. Let's go ahead and turn off pretty print. Everything still looks good there. Turn it on again. Everything seems to be correct. I'm a little concerned about how true is evaluated to basically have a cap. I don't think that that's a terrible thing. I think it handles all cases of true, but it would kind of be nice if it was just a all lowercase situation, since that's kind of what they look like. But that's not terrible. So, okay, so that means that we do have arrays and objects now properly indenting things. We have them properly working with nested objects, so it looks correct. So now the thing that we want to work on is getting our parsing to work, I think. Although actually before I do that, I will add some of those convenience methods I was talking about to add just arbitrary values instead of JSON values. So we're going to go ahead and stop playing and come back over to here. And we're going to go to, we'll start with JSON object, I guess. Might as well. It's a little bit easier. So we have the add functions here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start adding a bunch of functionality. So I'm going to say public void add string key. It's always going to be a string key to start. And then we're going to say, oh man. No, that's fine. Never mind. I was going to say, I don't want to have arbitrary functions for JSON bools or anything like that, because that would cause confusion between JSON value and JSON bool. But I don't have to worry about that because JSON value will just handle that for me. So, okay. So we'll go ahead and say string key, string value. Pretty straightforward here. All this is going to do is just call add key, key, and then new JSON string value. Pretty straightforward there. We'll go ahead and say public void add key, int value, add key, new JSON number, value. Okay, let's go ahead and come up to here. I'm gonna make this float. Okay, go ahead and say add, make this a bool, make this a JSON bool. We'll go down to, I don't think we need it for a JSON object or a JSON array, so I think that's all we really need for objects. We just need bools, floats, ints, strings. We don't need to worry about nulls because that can just be here. And then arrays and objects are also just JSON values, so we also don't need to worry about them. So that's pretty straightforward on that. To just do a quick test. Ooh. Dang. I was a little concerned about that, but okay. That kind of sucks because it means that I can't just pass in null, but yeah, all right. Then in that case, I would just have to basically pass in JSON null there, which is not the end of the world. It kind of just sucks. So we'll go ahead and let that go. But that does mean that I want here to just do this. So instead of saying JSON bool false, we'll just try passing that in. Instead of passing in the JSON string, I'm just going to go ahead and pass in a actual string value. We'll go ahead and just duplicate this, paste this. We'll say 0 and then 0.1 f. We'll call this int2 and float2, I guess. Get rid of the number parts, obviously. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and pretty much let everything else go. That's really all I needed to worry about, I think. So where's my JSON object, right? Because I just added string, int, float. Oh, nope, yep, that's it. Okay. So let's go ahead and let that compile. We'll give it a quick test down. Quick rundown, see if it works. All right. Let's go ahead and change this to, I guess, bool to start. Nice. So this to be null. Nice. String. Nice. Number. Nice. Okay. And then array, which should be the same pretty much. Cool. So that's all working pretty well. Out of curiosity, actually, I'm going to turn on profiling. Because I would just kind of like to know like what all is happening whenever I adjust these values. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to say 9. Let's go ahead and switch this to be string. So we do have a little bit of a garbage spike, which I guess kind of makes sense. There's not going to be any way for us to totally reduce that down to 0, so that's a lost cause. Ooh, I have also not seen the profiler in 2018.3. I've not really used 2018 very much because I'm still stuck in 2017. But yeah, that's really cool. I like how they break it up by they break up frame data by chunks, so you can see it a little bit more easily. All right, so judging from the looks of things, oh man, they've really jobified a bunch of this scripting threads. Except now, the only downside is I have no clue what I'm doing here. So let's see. Hierarchy. Okay, so that lets me see it a little bit better. So this is the this spike here is when we parsed for our string. So I'm guessing that this is what we want. And let's see. Script run behavior update. I'm guessing it's this. JSON.test. Ooh, really? 1.4 kilobytes of garbage? What? that doesn't seem right. Like we should be getting, well, I guess we were getting 38 total, so maybe that's not terrible. Probably we'd have to do deep profiling to get any more useful information, for being honest there. So probably the best we're gonna get out of that. Well, okay. I'm not gonna worry about profiling for now. I was just kind of curious to see what it was. So let's go ahead and get some convenience functions added to our array, and then we should be good. So we're going to say add JSON value item. We'll say, oof. Yeah, here's where it can get a little iffy. I will have, well, no, again, if we want to add null, then I'll just have to say add JSON null, I guess, which is fair, I suppose. So I wonder if I should, I wonder if I can optimize JSON null to return a static reference of a null instead of creating a new null every time you need one. I wonder if that would be a good way to do it. Well, for now, I'm just going to go ahead and say public void add. We'll say bool item. Then we'll say add new JSON bool item. And actually, I'm going to rename that to just say value. Public void add. Oops. Add string value. Add new JSON string. Oops. JSON string value. Go ahead and copy this a couple of times. Okay. Int value, JSON number, float value, JSON number. Okay, so that should handle, so bool, string, int, float. Everything else is a JSON value already, so that should handle that, which means that this is a little bit easier now, so I can do something like array.add, oops, array.add, and we'll just say 0. Actually, we'll just say 83. Why not? We'll also do array.add raw string array.add 83.33333333. Okay. And then way up here, we'll just call array.add false. Okay. Oh, right, F. Almost forgot my F's. And that's pretty much all we need, and we can probably actually get rid of this. And this. And this. Oops, not that part, though. And you, and you, and you. Okay. So let's go ahead and let that compile. And then I think we can move on to the actual parsing proper, which is going to be, oh, so fun. Oof. All right, so let's go ahead and make that an array, make it pretty print, see what it looks like. All right, so we have true, false, null, string test, raw string, 83, 83.333334, which is hilarious that it rounds up like that. Then we'll say, yep, that's all looking good. 0, 1, 2, 3, cool. So it looks like that's all pretty much doing what you would expect. And then if we set that to not be pretty, I'm assuming that's from the wrapping. That's not from our spacing. So this is just because it's wrapping basically. This isn't because of a new line character problem. Okay, so cool. So that all pretty much works. So we can, at runtime, we can create and output these JSON values. I suppose actually one of the things that I would want to do as just a quick check is I'm going to try to set some values while I'm at this. So, oh man. Okay. Here's where it gets more difficult. Ideally, I would be able to do something like this. And I can access like this. I can say like, like int2, but I can't assign of like a number value like that. I would have to say new JSON number and then 5. So that is where things get less happy for me. So I'm going to have to look into assigning values, which is going to be interesting. So and just as a quick aside, I do actually have comparison set up, so you can actually do something like this. If JSON of, we'll say int, we'll just say int, is equal to 15, it's probably going to fail out because we have JSON value in int. However, if we do this, then it will actually execute properly. It will compare JSON numbers to ints. So I can actually throw like a debug.log int matches. Okay. So I'll let that go. Mostly because that also lets me check that this assignment stuff actually works for objects. And that was, I believe, under integer tests. Yeah, that was a number test. So let's go ahead and put this under number. We're going to hit play. After I hit save. So this will be interesting. Okay, so you can see that it did reassign our int value, and we did get a debug out saying that int matches. So my comparison stuff does work, and we can assign as you would expect, but we don't have as convenient of a workflow as I would like yet. So actually, before we go on to parsing, I am going to try to get this to work. So that's going to involve figuring out how to do Iequatable or Iequatable. So Iequatable is, funny enough, I believe if we actually looked at like an integer, so if I like peep definition, I think it takes us to int. It takes us to Icomparable, Icomparable, int32, Iconvertible, Iequatable, int32. So probably we're going to need Icomparables, and then we're going to need all kinds of things, really. Which probably actually means that we want to go to JSON value. I want to look at object. You aren't anything, really. I honestly thought that you were. Okay. I stand corrected. I thought that. Excuse me. I thought that the standard object class actually did derive from Iequatable, but that is obviously not the case. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pop back here. And let's see. Iequatable interface defines equals methods. Replace the type parameter of the type that is implementing this interface. If you implement Iequatable T, you should also override the base implementation of equals and get hash codes so the behavior is consistent with that of equals T method. If you do override equals object, your written implementation is also calls to the static. Yeah, blah blah blah. Equality. These are the operators that I've overridden. I've already done that. Which that, by the way, is something that I would never have figured out if I just did not stumble across that being a thing. You can actually overwrite the equals and not equals operators in C# for specific classes. So in this case, you can actually, this lets me compare JSON numbers to straight up ints and floats without having to first, just say like JSON number.int value is equal to this. I can just say JSON number is equal to this, and it will validate that, which is nice. So that's a weird thing that not very many people tell you, mostly because it's usually not very relevant. Although if you are doing that, you basically have to do all four of these. So you have to do the equals and not equals in addition to equals and get hash code. And if you want, you can do multiple overrides for the equal operator and not equal operators. So I do overrides for ints and floats as well, because numbers for JSON can be both ints and floats. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I want to read up on this a little bit more. So I'm just gonna try this. Gonna give it the old college try. And let's see here. We're gonna go to JSON number. I think is what we're gonna want to try to do first. So I believe that means we're gonna say using system, and then we're gonna say comma Iequatable int 32. Which itself means I have to do this. Okay, something got added. So for this, we want to say return value, I guess, or int value is equal to other. And that means we also want to do oh, wait, are you redundant? Ah, okay, that's fair. And then Iequatable float, which I'm assuming, yeah, you're just going to do that. So that means we can do this. We're just going to say float. Oops, I hit insert other. We're going to say float value is equal to other. Okay. And then Iequatable, I think is what I want. Right? Iequatable. This is quite interesting. I will not lie. So we're going to say Ieconvertible as well, I think. Because I think I want it to be Ieconvertible. I don't know about Iformatable. I've not looked at that before. So let's look at Icomparable. Okay. And then what was the other one? Iformatable were the only ones that were left. Iconvertible. That's the next one. Iconvertible, which I can't spell because I'm terrible at spelling. And then finally Iformatable. Okay. So all of these things. Generalize type specific comparison method that a value type or class implements in order to sort its instances. Derived implementation of Icomparable compare to. I don't actually think I have a compare to function in here. I think I have all the equals, but I don't have compare tos. Object, return 1. Oh. Okay. I probably want to just. Okay. Okay, I think I know what I want to do there. So this is Icomparable. So we'll go ahead and say, put those in front of Iequatables. Try to line up with Icomparable to int. Right? I would want it to be an int, or would I want it to be comparable to another JSON number, I suppose. So it'd be that. So let's go ahead and put that in there, which plopped it in somewhere down here. And we're just going to do I compare to, we'll say if obj is equal to null, then we'll say return 1, because that's what that does. And then I'm pretty much probably just going to take this. Okay, so obviously this is going to be a JSON number, other numbers, JSON number. Okay, if other temperature does not equal null, this dot shoot. I guess it would just be raw value compared to raw value, because that does that. Nope, except object doesn't want to do that, so that's problematic. So you can't compare objects directly. Except I'm sure that I could probably do like get hash, yeah, which is not great. Yeah. That's not great. Just out of curiosity, definition. Get hash code gives me something, but I don't know what that is, so I'm going to, just for the fun of it, I'm going to dig into the system DLLs just to see what they're doing. So let's see, system. Okay, so I'm going to pull this over. I probably shouldn't be showing this on the air, but it's probably fine. I think this is just going to be under system. Let's look for int, I guess, which itself is, I'm assuming it's just part of the base system, right? Yeah, okay. So system.int32 is probably fine. Assuming I can find it. Oh, how curious. So it's not in here, which complicates things. I guess that this is just, now, if I remember correctly, this is just the C# definition, or the system library that Unity uses. So it's also possible that a lot of this stuff would be buried anyway, and I wouldn't be able to really examine it. So, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to have to do my best here. That is very upsetting. I don't really know what I should do here, because in theory, if you had a JSON number with an int value, well, so the way that JSON numbers work is you can grab the int value that it has or the float value by just returning the raw value casted to an int or the raw value casted to a float. The raw value is an object, but if I don't have a method of comparing those two, then I don't really know what to do there. So I suppose the best case here would be like a get hash code thing, where I do this, and then I can say dot get hash code, I guess. I'm assuming that would be kind of correct, but that's also a little awkward, and I feel like that's, I don't know, I don't know if that's going to be super performant. Either way, we'll go ahead and call this other number. Okay. And I think that will probably work. If I'm lucky, this get hash code will be super fast for ints and floats, and I won't have to worry about it. And we're just going to go ahead and say object is not a JSON number. Okay. I comparable, which itself is going to, of course, do like do this. Where did that put you? Next to the compare to, which itself, I guess that means that I would just have that as an easier case. Okay, that's super weird. Um, okay, I don't really know what. Okay, so I guess this would just essentially be this. So we're going to say if other is equal to null, return 1. Otherwise, we'll just return this. Other number. Okay, so that's our comparable. And the next thing we wanted to work on was convertible. CLS. Common language runtime type that is an equivalent value. This, I might not be able to do anything with this then. Iconvertible. First cast a double, then calling the static convert mymls on that double. So typecode.object to boolean. Okay. 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 I think I. Okay. I think I can do this. This is going to be way more cumbersome than I was expecting, but I think I can work with this. Okay. Get double value, which is probably up here, right? Yeah, math.square root. Okay. So let's try this, because convertible will, I think, most likely be helpful for convertible for basically just getting sort of value conversions on this. That's why it's called convertible. But this will be a journey for us. Yep, it's gonna be massive. Oh man, this just like dumps so much code into it. Okay. So type code is going to be return typecode dot object, I guess. Pretty sure that's what we're going to want. Yeah, looks like object. Okay, so object to boolean. I suppose that means that we would want to do pretty much what they're doing here, where we say like they were basically checking if it was 0, which I missed over it. Where are you? To datetime, to char, to byte, to boolean. Here it is. So all I need to do is just say like if this is not equal to 0, I think. So I think I can just say if this is not equal to 0.0f, return true, which I guess would actually mean that to boolean is just return. Oh shoot, no, there's a provider that gets passed in. Should I worry about that? Nope. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to say return this is equal to 0f. So, I'm sorry, this is not equal to 0f. So if it's equal to 0, that means that it's a bool. Nope, sorry. This is, yes. So if this is not equal to 0, it will return true. If it is equal to 0, it will return false. So that's a pretty quick way of doing that. Typically, in most computer programming languages, when you have a number value serving as a bool, if it's 0, it's false. Everything else is true. Doesn't matter if it's like 0.0000001, that's still true. It could be negative 10 billion. That's also true, as long as it's not 0. 2 byte. This is going to be interesting. Let's see. Convert.2byte, get double value. That probably means I can do this. I think I could just return 2 byte. Oh, I can't actually do that. I gotta call convert 2 byte, and then float value, I guess. Or would int value be a little bit better? Probably would be that. To char, that is super weird. I guess I'll just keep doing that. Because that seems to be kind of their approach, is just always returning that. So we'll do that. And then for this, so this is to char. Probably I want that to be a float value instead, I guess. That's where it gets a little bit iffier. To char sounds Klingon. I feel like if it was Klingon, it would be more like to char. But you're not wrong. And also, I really hope that there is now a word in Klingon that's to char. And now I wonder what it is. Also, hi Garrett. How are you doing today? Okay, so I'm assuming this is pretty much going to be the same thing for all of our convertibles. So let's see. To date time. Cool. Yep. We're just going to keep doing this. To decimal. We'll just say float value for that. To decimal. To double float value. I'm sure that this could probably also be float value. I'm probably going to end up using float value most of the time instead of int value, unless it's like very obvious, because bytes will always be whole numbers. They can't be partial numbers. To int, so we're going to say to int 16. This, it's ironically enough when I'm going to use the int value. Let's go ahead and come back here to int 32. To int 32. Oh my goodness. To int 64. To sbyte. To single. Okay. Doing K++. So I'm assuming that's super good then. Well, it's good that you're in a good mood. And for this, shoot. Can I convert objects? If so, that might be better. To string. And then this will be raw value, please. Yes! Okay. So I could probably cheat on all of this and instead just pass in all of that. Let's go to type. Single string to type. Change type. Okay, that's interesting. So this is going to say return convert dot change type. I guess raw value would be that. And okay, this is that arbitrary? Conversion type? Okay, conversion type it is. Klingon programming language? Oh, jeez. That's true. I guess, given that it's Star Trek, I would not actually be surprised if they had a name for the programming language and interfaces that they used in the Klingon ships. Also, I mean, it's also minor enough detail that maybe they didn't, but I would also not be surprised at all if someone did actually have that. Okay, so we're going to say 234. We're going to return this. Fixing bugs. Sounds fun. What bugs are you fixing currently? It's going to be 2uint 16. Let's go ahead and do that. 2uint 32. 2uint 64. Okay, that's all of them. That is a ton of effort to get this all working the way you would expect. And that's really assuming that this is even necessary, honestly. I don't know if I need to do that. You know, actually, I feel like convertible might have been a waste of time there because we never want to convert this to anything other than numbers, so it doesn't really make sense to do 2char and 2datetime, maybe 2datetime, but it doesn't make sense for anything else really. So that's a little hard. Fmod bugs, save game bugs, hangs, fun stuff. Fun stuff indeed. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I mean, I'm currently rewriting my JSON parser because I need it to not have large amounts of lag spikes when loading lots of JSON. So that's going to be fun for me. Hence why we're doing all this weird iConvertible stuff because I'm trying to make it much more streamlined on the front end. So I'm hoping. Oh, you know what? I bet. Oh man. Yeah. No. Well, no. Hmm. I was gonna say. I bet we could probably move the iConvertible stuff into the base JSON value, and I think it would work. Question mark? Maybe. Um, and then we could keep Iequatable and Icomparable in JSON number because we're not really doing much here. Like at the end of the day, I could probably just skimp out and make this all say raw value instead of int value, like this. Because all the float and int values are just casts of the raw value. Um, so I could probably do that. Would that let it work? Nope. Okay. Um, but I could probably cast it as a float and have that work. Save game bugs. That's interesting. I haven't I haven't seen how William's handling save states since he started working on that a while back, like years ago. Um, are you guys just handling that via like a save file that you write text to, or are you doing scriptable objects or something? All right, so get type code, I'm pretty sure, is also from that. So I think we could move all of this into our base class. I'm pretty sure. So let's try that. I'm actually kind of curious. So I'm gonna move all of this. Let's grab this over to JSON value, and then we're going to move this out of there. Hit save. And we're gonna move this into here. Well, you're not happy. Oh, right. Sorry, wrong thing. Let's say you're not happy about that at all. Okay, so that seems to compile at least correctly. Now the real question is that going to let me kind of get away with things? I'm going to guess no. Oh, you know what? I actually interesting. Um, I actually have not overridden raw value here. Hmm. That's actually interesting. I guess that means that raw value needs to be list after all of that stuff. Ugh, it's a little rough, but I think that is actually what I need to do there. Let's go ahead and put this in there. Okay, so you need 2 lines. Boom, boom. Okay. And I think that's pretty useful. Let's go to the JSON object. Pretty much the same thing, except this is going to say dictionary. Let's go ahead and copy that, paste that, paste that, paste that. Okay, pretty straightforward. And then I think we can let that go. Reasonably sure that that might work. We don't have any errors showing up at the very least. Geez, I wonder if I should make Iequatable. Yeah, I guess. So Iequatable probably shouldn't be really any of this. Like these should probably also be in the base JSON value. So we're going to do this. This is going to be JSON value. We're going to come back to JSON number, JSON number. Let's get rid of you guys. We're going to come back down to here. I think we're going to grab this. And we're going to move this into JSON value, which will go here. And now instead of JSON number everywhere, we're going to do this and this and this. And let's go ahead and rename this as other value. And we'll just call it other. JSON value. Okay, I think that might actually work a little bit better. Keep in mind that I'm kind of stabbing around in the goop. I've not actually really done much with Iecomparables and Ieconvertibles, or Iequatables really. So this is a brand new adventure for me. But at the very least, I am reasonably confident that the numbers are looking a little bit better. The only concern that I do have is I still don't think that this is enough to give me what I want in terms of assigning values, which is a little sad. So I'm pretty sure that I can't basically say something like, let's see, let's go back to our JSON test. Like I still can't do this. Yeah, I still can't do that. So I can't implicitly convert type, which means that I need a way of explicitly doing so, which is, oh man, all kinds of hard. I don't know what I want to do there because I'm not really sure what to do there. I know that I can't just assign that because the problem is that like a JSON value, like the base class JSON value can't really know about JSON numbers, so it can't. It's not like it can make itself one, which means that this has to be handled on the array and object side. I feel, so that complicates things because what's essentially happening there is this bit of code here. Jeez. Oh boy. Can I do this? I can get the type of the value. So if I really wanted to, we could do something with that in terms of setting, but that doesn't really fix the problem. And I still, like, even if I did have that working, the first step would probably be getting something like this to work. JSON number n is equal to new JSON number 0. N is equal to 1. Like, getting that to work is... Oh, nope, never mind. Okay. So, as a template, something that I think I can try to figure out is... what is it? Layer mask m is equal to null. Well, we'll just say it's equal to 0. So I'm going to peek this. This is a struct, and I believe I can try to figure this out. So implicit operator. Oh, that's what that is. Okay. Well, I might be able to just do that? Question mark. Although I'll probably still cheat, and I'm going to totally look at IOSpy. So, see what happens there. Unity Engine. Unity Engine. We're going to look at Unity Engine, just the base one. Layer mask. Layer mask. And let's just kind of see what they're doing here. Value implicit operator. Here we are. So I guess implicit operator is the thing that we want to override, which is interesting. We're going to return mmask.mask. Okay. All right. Let's try that then. So that means I need to come down to, let's save that. We're going to go down to JSON number. And after the operator overrides, we're going to go ahead and say public static implicit operator. And then it was int JSON number. Let's just kind of take a look at this. Number. And then we're going to say return int value, I guess. Or no, number dot int value. Okay. And then public static implicit operator. JSON number int number. Is that right? Let's see here. I want it to be layer mask result. Okay. Okay, so we're making a new one on the fly, which means that we're doing this. JSON number. Okay, value number is equal to new JSON number value, which I guess means that I can just kind of do this, return new JSON number value. Okay, and that probably means that I can copy this, paste this down here. We're going to make it floats this time. Float value. Okay. And maybe that will let us do that? Uh-oh. Crap. Okay. I guess that's fine. Although that's kind of a weird quirk. So funny enough, in doing that, I'm going to assume yes, that it did work. Mostly because, so let's try this. Yes, so we can do that now. But hilariously, it also made it ambiguous for regular JSON value expressions. Oh, oh dear. Oh, oh dear. That might be okay. As a test case, I'm gonna go over here to JSON object. I might just be overly concerned about this. Uh-oh. Yeah, okay. That's not good. Shoot. Okay. So maybe I don't need int and float adds anymore. Can I just do that? So if I do something like this. Yes. No, I can't. Okay. Okay. Huh. Really? You can't do that, huh? to JSON value. Okay. Well, crap. So that overly complicated things. Also, I'm very sorry that I keep blowing raspberries into the mic. I do that when I get frustrated. Okay. So I can no longer. Wait, why are you erroring out? Oh, because that's the array. So I can't really. I can't do that for one. Like I have to. Jeez, that complicates things so much. So if I do allow implicit conversion between ints and numbers, or JSON numbers, then that causes all kinds of problems with my actual functions because they get confused. So what am I going to do about that? No, I can't do that. Oh, I really don't want to have parent classes know about child classes, so I don't want to do that at all. Oh man, that is really difficult. Okay. Maybe I can get rid of this. So if I get rid of the like float and int conversions, maybe I can just do a one-way cast, and that will solve my problem. Yes, that does seem to work. Okay. So I don't want to be able to set number values based off of JSON number, but I do want to be able to set numbers based off of values. Your avatar should make raspberries too. Oh man, that would be so hard to detect. I don't even know what that would be. Actually, you know what? I guess it would be possible if I just analyzed the like the samples, and if I noticed that they were rapidly going up and down a bunch, which is what I assume a raspberry would sound like, because it would just be like a. I bet I could get him to do it. um, huh. That could be an interesting side project one weekend. But okay, so doing that at least did fix our number problem. So now we can cast, or we can declare JSON numbers as raw ints or raw floats, right? Cool. Like both of those will work, but we still can't do this. We still can't just natively say JSON of whatever is equal to a number. We have to say is equal to new JSON number, which is not as useful as I would like. That's very sad. Also, that actually, thinking about that, that actually doesn't help me very much because it's constantly creating them. Then again, I guess it's not too much of an issue. It's not like it's going to be setting it every time. Okay, so we've figured out how to cast implicitly between objects and numbers, which means we can do the same thing basically for bools and strings and all that. But the question there is, how do we get all of that to work in such a way that we could just do this? Because ideally it would be nice if I could just do something like JSON, or like if JSON of int is equal to 15, instead of having to cast to JSON number and all that. But that's really not a huge problem, honestly. However, the side, or the other side of that, is that I would like to be able to basically say this: JSON of int is equal to 5. Like, that would be nice, but I can't do that. So I would have to say is equal to a new JSON number, which, hilariously enough, I actually bet if I kept this, I bet if I kept these, like if I kept that, will you work? You will. So if I like got rid of this and this, maybe not. Okay. Oh yeah, right, because it can't convert it to a JSON value. I would have to try and convert that to a JSON number instead. So, okay. I'm really not sure what I can do here then. I suppose for the time being, we can go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and implement I think it's just Iequatable now, right? Like, those are the only two things I need to do. So that's pretty nice. It's just Iequatable int and float. That's pretty much all I care about. Yeah. So let's go ahead and go over to JSON bool. I'll go ahead and say using system. We're just going to say Iequatable bool. We have our operators over here. Let's go ahead and get our interface in here. Equals, we'll just say return. I believe that's just going to be return basically that like my bool value is equal to that. So yeah, we'll just say bool value. I'm sorry, not bool value. Value is equal to other. That's pretty straightforward, and that's pretty much all I need to do there. I probably want to go ahead and say public static implicit operator, and then I think we wanted to say JSON bool bool value return new JSON bool value. Pretty straightforward there, which I'm sure is going to cause problems. Oh, I guess you're not going to cause problems there. But that does mean that I can go ahead and just do like, geez. Geez. So it'd be like JSON bool, bool value is equal to new JSON. And nope, not even that is equal to just false. Cool. So I can do that. That's nice. But that doesn't necessarily solve my problem. And we can do the same thing for string. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Using system, just system, and then Iequatable string. We'll go ahead and implement that. Okay, and we'll just say return value is equal to other. Pretty straightforward there. And then again, we want to say public static implicit operator, and then JSON string value return new JSON string value. Okay, so we can assign all of these based on string values, but at the end of the day, I'm still not able to really do much with this. I guess I could try this. This is going to be terrible, and I'm going to hate myself for this, I'm sure. I hate having parent classes reference their child classes, so we're going to try this. Public static implicit operator JSON string value. Yeah. Okay, no, that's fine. Return new JSON string value. Will you work with me there? No. Did I code that wrong? No. Maybe I don't need to do this, or maybe it's because I'm specifically trying to reference a child class. Or maybe it's because I need to say Iequatable string. Iconvertible? Maybe? No? No, no, no. That doesn't work. Also, hello Scorpio. Welcome back. How are you doing tonight? And in general, it's been a while. Okay, so that doesn't really help me much. So public static implicit operator, public static implicit operator, JSON string. I'm really just kind of wondering. I guess I could just do this, JSON value. Okay, so it has to be of the class. That works, and I kind of wonder if that means that now I can actually do this. So we would say this is equal to, instead of new number, can I say like just 5 now? Ooh, oh yeah, I can. Cool. So we're gonna keep that then. So it sucks. I really hate having child classes mentioned in the parent classes, but this is actually pretty good. So I'm kind of happy with this. So we're gonna go ahead and say like do all the fun stuff. So public static implicit operator, JSON value, and then we're gonna say bool value. We'll say return new JSON bool value, public static implicit operator, JSON. We'll do strings first. So let's get rid of that. Come up to here. Say JSON value, int value, JSON number. I think that'll be fine, even if I have this do 2 of them, because they're 2 different parameters. Cool. So that actually just makes it work. So that's cool. Okay. Doing decent. Just had a lot of band and work seasonal at our ski resort. So we work most days of the week. Oof. Well, yeah. Now that I could see how that would take up a lot of time, especially in the winter. I always forget that there are ski resorts that are actually not too far away from here. Granted, I've never actually been to them, but I'm always surprised to hear that they're around here. Well, cool. Does that mean that things are kind of slowing down for you? I guess that would make sense considering it's starting to kind of ping pong between warming up and being deathly cold outside. So let's see. We got any other problems arising from this? No, it's looking pretty good. Cool. So now I think I can arbitrarily access this stuff, and I can just do stuff like that, which is awesome. So cool. I can now make direct assignment calls to my objects, which is awesome. I'm assuming I could do something similar to my array in the sense that I could probably say like, let's try this. Instead of add false here, I'm just going to say array of 0 is equal to false. Yes! Cool. So that works out really awesomely. Yeah, that's cool. This is really cool. I'm getting excited about this. So let's see here. We have everything else pretty much going the way I would expect. That's awesome. So let's, I guess, give this stuff a test and see if we get any weird errors. So we have JSON string, JSON bool, JSON number, which itself is 2 different things. All right, so we're going to get rid of these. And, excuse me. All right. I think that works pretty cool, or pretty well. So let's let that compile, see if we get any errors. 2 in Indiana, I believe. Not sure about up north. Yeah, I mean, I thought the one I was thinking of was up north, but I could be completely wrong. Like I said, I've never actually been there. I've only had a couple of friends go. Oh, geez. Yeah. I'm sure that the slopes are not very nice when it's raining. I suppose most ski resorts probably don't really have to think about that too often. Okay. Oh. Uh-oh. There we go. There we go. Oh no, I don't need that anymore, do I? Let's come back up to here. Yeah, I don't have to say that. I can just leave that as is. Cool. So I don't have to worry about that. Or crap, do I? I probably should. Okay, so I'm going to have to say Iequatable. So we'll want to give it the full gamut, I guess. Bool, Iequatable, string, Iequatable, int, Iequatable, float. Okay. Let's see. Equals. So I think we just have to do this. We're going to say return bool raw value is equal to other. Yep. So we do want to do that mostly because I'm pretty sure there are going to be times where we want to do something like this, where I can say, oh, you know what? I bet I can do this now. So that won't work, but I wonder if this will. Or flas, I don't know why I always do that. False. Dang it. Oh, nope, I lied. I have to, I think I have to do an override for equals as well. Ugh, okay. So JSON value just got like a little bit more complicated. I think perfect north might be the one I was thinking of. I could be wrong though. Okay, so let's go ahead and say, let's see, public bool equals, this is our string. Let's just make this a string or whatever that was. Let's go ahead and get this in here. This is an int. This is a float. Okay, so that got rid of all of those, and now I can do the actual operators. So we're going to say public static override. Nope. Hold on. I thought it was override. It was not override, apparently. Bool operator, and that's what it is. Bool operator equals, and then we want to say JSON value A, then bool B, I believe. Oh, geez, you're going to be all kinds of problems for me, aren't you? Yeah. Yep. Cool. Which means that we now need to go here. And that means that these probably need to be virtual. Or not, actually, because that does the exact same thing, honestly. Which means that I don't even need to worry about you. I don't even know if I need to worry about Iequatable here, because JSON value itself is Iequatable to bools. So, okay. That means I can probably do this. So we're going to come up to here. I'm going to grab this, and we're just going to put that here. And then we're probably just going to do the same thing for our get hash code. Not really intending on doing much of a base get hash code there. I guess I could return raw value.get hash code. That would probably work. Cat, yes, I see you. So instead of base.get hash code, I'm just going to call raw value.get hash code. Perfect north is over by Cincy, Paoli as well. And Paoli. You don't say. Okay, so this is right. For this, we're pretty much just gonna steal this, I guess, just A equals B. So probably we're just gonna pretty much move all of this code into that. So we're just gonna do that. Except this is gonna be a JSON value now, isn't it? Yes. So cool. That's pretty straightforward, I guess. So we're pretty much going to do all of that for all of our stuff. So I don't need to worry about this anymore. I can just say, man, I don't even know. Is there even a reason for me to worry about this? Not really. So I can kind of get rid of all of these, I guess, and just have them be taken care of by the base class, which is kind of nice. So I can get rid of this Iequatable because the base function handled that for me. So cool. Well, that simplified a lot of duplicate code, I guess. So I'm just moving a bunch of code from the base classes to the parent class because it's going to handle all the conversion stuff for us. So that's kind of cool. Simplifies things a little bit, I guess. We can go ahead and get rid of you. And we can probably just go ahead and move this stuff in there. So let's go ahead and put this down to here. Come to here. Okay, then we can get rid of this. And boom. Okay, and then we can get rid of Iequatable string. Pretty straightforward. JSON bool is already taken care of. JSON null is not really a thing. Okay. Same thing here. We do not have to worry about this. I do need to grab this. Pump this right here. You are, yeah, okay. So these all need to be JSON values, of course. Okay. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, why are these the exact same parameters? It's like, oh, it's different operators, duh. Okay. So that's our number taken care of. Go ahead and get rid of that. Oh, actually, hold on. Oh, yeah, that's fine. And get rid of you. And make you guys go away too. Cool. So that's, I think, like almost everything. Let's go ahead and let that compile. So now our base class can be converted. Granted, it might be a little cumbersome that way. There might be some inadvertent conversions. Well, no, actually it should work just fine. It's pretty fun, pretty relaxed most days. If you can make it down before we close, get you a lift pass. As much as I do appreciate the offer, I'm 90% sure. I've never skied before, but I'm 90% sure that the day I try, the one day I try, it's going to be like Final Destination. You know, I'll just ride the lift up to the top. I'll get just almost to the top, and everything will break down. The lift that I'm riding will fall down. I'll get, I don't know, get my legs cut off by my skis somehow. I'll fall all the way down the range, and then I'll just break my neck on the last line of it. I don't know. I don't know why, but I'm just 90% sure that's how it's going to go. If I ever try to ski, it will just not turn out well for anyone involved. Okay, so we have all of our actual data values now being easily adjustable. We can arbitrarily set them, which is super cool, at least to me, because I'm a 5-year-old, even though I've been programming forever now. And I really like that I can just reassign things on the fly. That's really awesome to me. I'm going to go ahead and make this like just be a float, so I can show that you can just arbitrarily set them, even if they were initially something else. So let's run a test for the number test, and we'll see what we end up doing there. So let's let that compile. Just wear a helmet. You know, I don't think I've ever seen someone wear a helmet on a ski slope. I'm not saying that that doesn't exist. Like, I definitely do believe you, but I guess in pop culture, it's just not been a thing. Well, no. I guess no, even the GoPro people, like, it always seems like they're not wearing helmets. Maybe it's just like cycling in that regard, where people are told to do it, but no one listens. All right. Ah, we got a cast problem. Darn it. Really? Is that because it's an object? No? Okay. Um, maybe I have to do this instead. It is possible. Ah, that's not good. Okay. Huh. I. Okay, I guess I would do this. Like that. I also wonder if I could do this. Can I do that? Will that behave a little bit better? Let's find out. Okay. I knew it couldn't go so well. Something had to give after me getting so excited about stuff. Let's see, let's clear that. Hit play. Sadness. Sadness and despair. Okay, so that won't work, but will casting it as a string work? I'm also not sure what's comparing that right now. I don't remember. I guess I was saying if it's false, but I don't recall checking if it's a string. Snowboarders do? Oh, that's what you're saying. Yeah, I guess you're right. Snowboarders I have seen, I think, wear them. I wish I could snowboard. I keep in mind that I can't. I mean, obviously, there's no way you would know this, but I cannot skateboard to save my life. I can't. I can. I can't rollerblade even. I can barely roller skate. I cannot stress how not coordinated I am when it comes to like those types of activities. I have no idea why. Um, okay, so that works questionably because probably what's happening here is instead this is returning null, I bet, which doesn't really work. Can I call convert? Can I do convert here? Convert. Jeez. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know about that. So I suppose the way to do this real quick would be let's go ahead and make a new case. We're going to do object. It's going to be like our kind of catch-all syntax test. So we're going to say JSON.add, and we'll make this bool test. We'll say true. We'll say if JSON of bool test is equal to true. We'll say JSON of bool test is equal to false. Oops, wrong thing. Sorry. It's equal to false. Okay. And then we're going to say JSON.add string test, and then we'll say Chris, and then we'll say if JSON of string test is equal to equal to Arnold. I just watched Terminator, so just wear a helmet and stay on the bunny hill. I suppose that's true. One of these days, I do intend to actually try skiing and snowboarding, and not windmilling my legs so that they break and simultaneously get cut off. But you know, I don't know if I'll be able to do it before the winter ends this time. But I will keep that in mind. That would be really cool to do that. Anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and say JSON.add. We're gonna say, oops, not string test. Number, we'll say int test. Int test. Oops. We'll give it a 0. And we'll say pretty much the same thing. We're just going to go ahead and paste this. We're going to say int test. Int test is equal to 0. Int test is equal to 100. Go ahead and copy this. Set this as the float test. If nothing else, I am getting a pretty decent rundown of how to use iConvertibles and iConversions and all that. That's actually pretty nice. I'm going to set this as equal to 0f. If it's equal to 0f, we're going to set it equal to 200f. Okay, and so we have bool strings. Those are all of our tests, basically, so that should do it. Let's try that. See if we get proper examinations. So basically what should happen here is we should get all of the secondary values set. And if any of them are the original values, so true, 0, 0, or Chris, then the comparisons are not evaluating as we would expect. So we're going to go ahead and make this an object test. Hit save. Yep, that's what I was worried about. That sucks. Wait, hold on. Unless I was doing this incorrectly, which is possible. If we go to definition here. Nope, we were saying raw value is equal to that. So, crud. Really now? Huh. Okay, let's try doing this. That's int. Nope. Okay. So I can't cast it because raw value is null. Let's try that. My hope was to get the parsing, well, not the parsing, because obviously that's not going to happen tonight, but my hope was to have all of the data structures functioning by the end of the stream, but that might not end up happening. Got too big for my own britches. It's null, which is never good. How are you null? Okay. Well, I guess I could figure out. So this is JSON value check at JSON value 179. So check at 179. We're just calling a dot equals b. Which itself calls this. Which itself checks if the raw value is equal to nothing. Okay, so where else are you calling from? JSON Test 99. So we're getting past the string and bool checks, at least. So that's interesting. Um, That's problematic too. So raw value here is null. Let's peek definition here. Let's peek definition here. We're setting raw value equal to that. Can ints not be objects then? Well, frack. Okay. I shoot. So I guess let's try this. I'm going to say debug.log. Well, no. We'll say if raw value is equal to null after that. Then I will try to say raw value is equal to like null exclamation points. And then we'll debug.log raw value. Will you work? That's a good question. If that's the case, that seriously hampers what I was planning on doing, which is problematic. I suppose... Nope, that wouldn't work. I was going to say, I suppose I could try to override it, make it virtual, but I don't think that that would. Still getting a problem here. Okay. How interesting. JSON Test 114. 114. Start. Okay, so it's still this 99. Okay. So crud. So we can't cast it to an int, which I guess is what it was telling me I couldn't do anyway. Which means that I can't store it as an int, which sucks and makes this incredibly difficult and makes this much more cumbersome to do. Shoot. That basically means I have to nope. That will not work. Okay. Problem then. That means that my fundamental approach was flawed. I thought that objects could be cast to ints, and I was apparently wrong. So that is very problematic. So that's not great. Peak definition here. Yeah. So it's just interesting because you can totally do something like this. Like you can say raw value is equal to 0 and that will work. But this equals will not. So I can't cast it back from an object. Am I incorrect in that? I could have sworn that objects could be ints. Oh, I see. Really? I suppose I could do that then. potentially work. So instead of that, we would say as int and then question mark. It's worth a shot, which means that this would be better as bool question mark. And this is actually interesting for me because I've never actually used the question mark. Well, I have used the question mark operator in key circumstances, but this is an operator technically. This is as a what is it even? Okay, whatever. I've never actually used that before, so maybe that will solve all of our problems magically, and I won't have to worry about it. Let's find out. Certainly would be nice. Although if it's null, it probably presents itself as a problem. Come back here. Okay, let's try this again. I'm guessing it's going to fail. Yeah, we were getting a bunch of nulls. So string was the only one that pretty much went through, which means that I have to come up with a better way of doing that. I don't. I really don't want to try parsing it. Can I do this? Convert dot to int 32. Can I give you an object? I can. So I guess I could do that. But that's also assuming that it won't fail out in that case, and if it does, I probably should have safety checks. It's not ideal. Boolean. Go ahead and do that. And we'll say dot to float, to double, I guess. I guess there is no to float, so we would have to cast it to a double. Or is decimal a float? Nope, it's a decimal. Okay, which means that we would actually have to... Really? Huh. I didn't think that doubles could be... Okay, I didn't think that doubles could be compared easily with floats like that, but okay. Let's try that. See if it works. Fingers crossed. Okay, so it almost worked. It works for ints and floats now, but not for booleans. Okay. But not for booleans. How curious. That definitely is strange. All values equal to value. That should set it. And we're just checking to see if it's equal to is equal to true. Which itself should be. Okay. Well, not really sure what to do there. So we're really close to getting it right, but I guess I can debug this too. Debug.log. Just gonna call this. See if that gives me a value that I can do. If it's false, then oh man. I just want this to work because then I think we're gonna end on a high note. Dang it. It's false. Which means that it's probably null. Which is problematic to me. That does certainly make things difficult. So, I really don't know what to do there, because it seems to be working for our ints, and we can probably get rid of that then. So it works for ints and floats, and it works for strings, but it does not work for Boolean values for some reason. I guess I could do this. Oh man, will that work? That seems redundant, but is it though? Like, just as a quick check. I am quite curious. Nope. All right. I think we're gonna end it there. We're gonna look into seeing why everything but pools seems to work now. Reasonably sure that we're not doing anything super weird. So, maybe it is coming through here. We know that. We do have it cast into pools. Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah. That's not great for it to have multiple things that show up, but whatever. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna call it there. It's a little. Well, it's not early necessarily, considering that it's 9:30. Um, so we made quite a bit of progress. We have JSON values basically able to be casted automatically, so we can just say, like, we can compare values easily. We can compare, bool strings, ints, and floats. We can set them at the same time, and it'll just arbitrarily cast it to whatever it needs to be. That's really cool. We figured out how to use iComparable and iConvertible and iEquatable and all of that stuff. That's all pretty cool. I'm really excited about that. That's a tool in my arsenal that I've never really had, and I've been wanting to learn it for a long time. So it's cool to finally sit down and do that. I was really sad that I couldn't get bools to work, but so yeah, the next step here is one, getting bools to work, and then once that's functioning, I think we're basically done with the data classes, because we can do intrinsic casting and we can do, implicit casting. We can do implicit comparisons. We can do all of that stuff very easily now, which means that the last part of it is going to be the parsing, which will entail parsing large strings into readable or into digestible data blocks. And doing so in such a manner that is not performance intensive, so you don't get those lag spikes that occasionally you get with my current parser. So this will be fun, and probably frustrating as I get closer and closer to finishing it, just because I'm sure there's going to be like tons of small things that just kind of add up and make me go nuts and make me do a lot of sound effects. So, but yeah, I do think that's a pretty good place to stop for the night. I've made pretty significant progress. So. Announcements. This Saturday, I will not be doing Devstream because I have plans and I'm going to be busy all day, so I will not be at my computer. I should be doing one on Thursday, so that should still be on. And from there, I think there's no other real announcements. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to stop for the night. So, as always, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.